Hello and welcome to the 19th episode of Tailoring in Conversation. In this series, I'll be talking to tailors from all around the globe to gain a better insight into their worlds. My guest for today is Rasmus Seidlitz Andersen. Rasmus is a textile merchant and clothing designer from Denmark. In our conversation for today, we're going to be talking about digital clothing, digital pattern cutting, CLO3D, and more. So let's get started. First of all, thank you for making the time. I'm glad to be here with you and to be able to talk about some exciting topics. I should probably start saying hello, welcome, and how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
Not too bad. I'm well. Rasmus, can you give us a little bit of a background info of where do you come from? What did you do? What are you doing now? So we can get some perspective.
Yes. I started studying fashion design in a school in Denmark. I'm from Denmark. And I took a bachelor degree. So it took about 4 years. And after that, I didn't feel that I knew enough about sewing, because what they teach you in fashion school is, it's a fast fashion. And so I got a job in an old tailor and fabric shop in Copenhagen. And through that, I got to know a ton about fabrics and good quality. And I also met a lot of tailors and craftsmen who could teach me all of the little tips and tricks of the trade, because I didn't have a teacher in school who could teach me that. After that, I stopped working at some point in the fabric shop when I thought I knew enough, and I started my own little business selling textiles. And I also sew on order. And I do some teaching in high school, teaching pattern making and, the very first and early stages of design and making clothing. And I also teach grown-ups in some weekend courses, also in pattern making. But of course, it's a little bit more simplified because I am not a tailor. And I think that's very important to say, because to be a tailor is a different education than what I have.
That's right. So where would you say your interest in pattern cutting came from?
I always had an interest in design and clothing. Actually, it started with my interest for theater. I always loved theater and historical clothing. I actually don't have a lot of interest in fashion. I like design, and of course I follow some designers, but the fashion world, I think, is mostly not a positive place. They're trying to be, but has a long way to go. So my interest is in.
Why do you say that?
Yeah, because we are all the time bombarded. Recently I got a ton of commercials from H&M, and these happy music playing, bring it back, because they want you to think they are recycling all the products that you bring back to them. This is, of course, not true. It's impossible to recycle all of that with the technology they have. And I think it's just a bit of a brainwashing. And in Denmark, we also recently had several companies who were, what is it called? There was a lawsuit put against them because of greenwashing. They were saying all of these nice things about sustainability, and it turned out to be wrong. It's fake marketing for the company, and they are kind of brainwashing the consumer. So a lot of these things are negative, and I don't think necessarily that the sustainable and it's very hard for a fast fashion company to become sustainable. I don't think it's possible. Because how many collections do they have a year? More than 10, and maybe fabric costs about €5 per meter. That's not a very sustainable product. I think there's a lot of negatives. That's my opinion, of course.
Sure, sure. So what sparked your interest in starting your own company selling fabrics?
It actually came as a surprise to me myself. When I worked in this old shop in Copenhagen, it was mostly a fabric shop. So we sold to companies and people off the street and stuff like that. And I always had an interest in the material and good materials. And that just grew working in the shop because, I met a lot of representatives from different companies selling wool from the UK, or some guy from Italy selling me some printed fabrics. So it could be a lot of different things. So I got to see and touch and feel many, many, many different fabrics. And my boss told me I would never be a good merchant because I was too honest. and and I think I took that with me, and I try to be extremely honest. I don't put my own label on the companies I work with. I try to get a good deal, so I'm kind of safe in that regard. So I can be 100% honest and tell people this is from here and this is how it's made. So I'm trying.
And what companies do you work with?
My main supplier is Dugdale Bros from Huddersfield. And I also work with a Swiss company called Alumo, which make cotton shirtings. And I work with another UK company called Clooney Lace, which makes these amazing cotton laces. And I also work with another UK company called Linton Tweeds, who makes more of these Chanel fabrics, novelty tweed, they call it themselves, which is very interesting as well. So it's four companies at the moment. Of course,
I see.
Looking for more, but it's not easy finding what I think is the good stuff.
Well, that's a challenge, I think, for everyone. Now, what I wanted to ask you is, how many people in Scandinavia roughly are doing the same thing as you're doing?
As far as I know, not a lot. The man I worked for in the old shop in Copenhagen, he just closed down his shop and moved to some smaller rooms and smaller shops, and it's only open, for appointments only. And I think this is the last of it because it's not been going well, unfortunately. And I'm trying, of course, to do it differently where I have no stock. So I sent the fabrics directly from the supplier. And this makes it easier for me, but I actually don't know. There's a lot of people working as agents and selling, but as I say, cheaper fabrics. And I'm trying to gather all the goodies and be very open about what's going on. And I don't know how many people are doing that.
Would you say you see yourself more as a designer, a technician, or a merchant?
Oh, that's a good question. Because I'm doing a little bit of both. That is a difficult question, actually, because I think I'm both. And that was also one of the selling points when I was working out the deal with Dugdale, for example, that I'm not only a merchant, but I also know how to work with the fabrics. I can explain people how to use the fusible interlinings correctly, or, there's more things I can do because I work with the textiles myself. So I think one aspect supports the other, actually.
Yes, that makes sense. When you were training to become a designer, what were the things that you were precisely trained in?
I was fortunate enough to go to a design school here in Denmark where they actually had we have a lot of sewing, physical working with it. We have a lot of pattern making compared to a lot of other schools. So it was very project based, like you start out with making a t-shirt, it's the basics, and then you finish off doing suits and you work with the menswear project and stuff like that on the bachelor program. And that was actually quite good because we get to have a lot of construction. But it's not tailoring what they teach you. They teach you the way it's made, in what you call them, on a fabric environment. So we never learned all the little hand stitches and stuff like that. We mostly used the sewing machine. And so that's, for me, it's important when people say, oh, you're a tailor. It's like, no, I'm not a tailor. That's a difference. A tailor can do things that I cannot.
Yes.
But it's I try to make it a mixture because I still want to have, I have the old handcrafts in high regard, and I respect the trade a lot and what people can do. I can do some other things. But it's important to say that I'm not a tailor. I think so, because the word is misused.
Yes, well, that's definitely true. I actually got carried away by starting to ask you questions about all the things that you're doing. There's a question I always ask everyone on the podcast. Who were you at 10 years old?
Who I was?
Yes.
I was the kid, the kid sitting in the library reading books about ancient history. That was me. I when 10 years old, I used to make clothing for my little chess pieces, and I made the clothing out of paper. And I made little towns and villages for the chess pieces. So I was the little nerdy kid, reading and doing weird stuff.
Right. Okay, well, that's good to know. That's very good to know. It makes sense why you're doing what you're doing. Okay. So the one thing we talked about before having this conversation was this very interesting technology that's being developed in the form of multiple programs, and the ones that we were talking about was CLO3D specifically. Tell us a little bit about how you found out about CLO3D. Give a brief description of what it exactly is and what you have been doing with it.
Yes, of course. So there is CLO3D and there's a Marvelous Designer, and it's basically the same program, where Marvelous Designer is more towards the gaming industry and CLO3D is made for the fashion world. So it's the same program. It does almost the same things, but there are some things that are different. What the program I use is Marvelous Designer, and I got to know it because I talked to a friend of mine who studied animation, and he asked me if I knew this program. Sorry, just falling out. And I was like, no, what's that? And he showed me, and I was just amazed that I could go through school, even though, it's some time ago. The program was still there. It was the start of it, that I've never heard of it, which was quite amazing. So I got the free trial. This was the start of the COVID pandemic, so I had more time than usual. And I basically just got the program and started watching tutorials, and I was just amazed of the possibilities. So I've just been using it for a year and 4 months now, I think. And I've used it to create my own designs, my own ideas, if it's fantasy or real world, whatever it might be. And I also used the program during the COVID pandemic I had a woman writing me if I could make her a skirt. And I was like, yes, I can make a skirt. And I used the program to show her my design. Yeah. So it was easy for her to understand what I wanted to make for her, because I could send her pictures from all around the body, and she could see all the details on the pockets and all the things I wanted to make. And it was easy for her to say, yes, this. She wants to buy this. So that was very interesting, actually, to use the program like that. And because in these programs, as you know yourself, because you started experimenting, you draw the 2D patterns yourself. So having a knowledge about pattern making is extremely helpful. but also because when you have made it in the 2D program or in Marvelous Designer or CLO3D, you already have an idea about the shapes that you need to make this garment, and you have an idea about the measurements you would need approximately, because it's the different body you make it for. But it worked so nice that I was really surprised, and my customer was really happy that she was able to see all the details and stuff like that, because it can sometimes be hard to understand the sketch drawn in hand.
Yes. Did you have previous experience with 3D modeling software?
No, never. And I think because after using Marvelous Designer, I do all the textures in a program called Blender, which is like a modeling 3D program. It can do many things. And that aspect of creating something in that program is so alien to me because I don't have this kind of education, where Marvelous Designer or CLO3D uses something that's very easy to understand for people who understand pattern making. And it's actually also a lot of fun to see, because you can spot people who don't know pattern making working in the program. Because some of the things are just wrong. It could be the fly in a trouser or something like that. You can see, aha, this is someone who don't know how that works, which is quite interesting.
So you teach pattern cutting as well, right? And now you've been able to play around with this software.
Yes.
How would you say, what are the similarities? How close to the real thing did you find CLO to be?
I would actually say 90%. It's really, really, really close. There's some things that are different, of course, in the way that the textile work, but they are very, very close. The next thing is we're going to try and use these on the high school students, because the first project they're going to make is a skirt of some kind, and we are going to take them through making a skirt in Marvelous Designer or CLO3D first, so they can see how to connect side seams. Very simple. Maybe there's a front seam. Who knows? They have to put in a zipper, and then when they come to make the skirt in real life, my hope is that they can see that okay, this is the back piece and this is the front piece, and so they remember the shapes and how they go together. Because what I often find is that from a person like me and you can easily take a pattern piece and see this is a part of a sleeve, or it's a part of a trouser, but people who are coming into this find it very difficult, because they can't see how this 2D shape works on the body. It's like, where's this? It's like, oh, it's between your legs. It's coming up this way,
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, it's very difficult. So my hope is that when they see in the program where all of these pieces fit together, and they can see, oh, it's a bit tight there on the back, you have to increase it here to make that go away. That the understanding of the 2D shapes on the 3D body will be easier to understand.
Yes. Well, as a teacher, what do you think that your students find the most difficult thing when they are learning pattern cutting?
It's identifying the 2D patterns, especially when you make something more complex like a shirt or a jacket. It's so often they come in and they show me something and they're like, oh, it doesn't work. I was like, no, it's because you put the side seam on the center back seam. Because they somehow got lost in the patterns. And of course, that's very frustrating for the student. So I'm really hoping that seeing in the program where the pieces go will help them solve the puzzle in real life, because it is like a puzzle.
Well, do you think that programs like CLO are going to produce better pattern makers, or do you think that pattern makers are not really created with the additional software that we have in our computers, but actually with good teachers who understand the fundamentals? What is your take on that?
I know a younger person who also studies design. I had a lot of talk with this person because he was interested in design. And what he's learning now in school, he's using these programs. And they have big plotters to plot out the 2D patterns. And then you can use the 2D patterns as a base. And I think that this program is going to make it easier. It's going to make it easier for the pattern maker to understand. And I think, look, in my world, it's just going to, at some point when it works better, it's going to just completely change the way we work with it. Because, the program is like a one-to-one scale. So you can, at some point, maybe create models, and you can put in the measurements from a real person into the program and get an avatar in the program that has I'm saying the right size, because there's a lot of things still that I don't think a computer can calculate. But when we're able to do that then you can basically just print out a pattern that is almost perfect. There must be a little bit of corrections you have to make maybe, but it will save a lot of time and a lot of costs. And I hope that will also, for smaller companies, hopefully when the technology is there, make it easier, because the price level, I think, often is a stopping factor because it's quite expensive.
What do you think that a program like CLO3D is going to do to the handcraft industry? I mean, I can very much understand that it's going to be very easy for mid-scale companies or small-scale companies to sample and reduce their cost by sending out offshore to receive their samples. And they can probably create garments that fit better. But in the long run, what do you think that the impact is going to be of a program like this, where everyone can pretty much become like a reasonable fashion designer with a catwalk and a few models? What is that going to do to the value of the handmade pattern?
Oh, wow. I don't think, because for, let's say, random person sitting at home using the program, being able to print out a pattern and doesn't make that person into necessarily a good craftsman. It makes the person being able to experiment with shapes and understand things, maybe get an easier grasp of pattern making without needing to go on expensive courses or something like that. I'm undermining myself at the moment. But I don't think it will change anything for the tailors, the more traditional tailors. I think what it can do is maybe limit the number of times that we try on different, we have the first fitting, the second fitting, maybe even a third fitting. If we can eliminate some of the fittings with starting with a pattern that fits better, I think that part could bring down the cost a bit. So the craftsman is more focused maybe on the production of the garment instead of all of these fittings. But I'm not sure that this is the program helped me eliminate fittings, which was in the end time spent and time saved for the customer. Money saved for the customer. Yes,
of course. Now, another question I have, and I don't know if you have an answer, we can think together about this. When people go to tailors, one of their primary focus points is fit. They say, I go to my best tailor because nothing fits better than the things he or she makes. Now, I understand that body scanners, 3D scanners, are very expensive and probably too expensive for a small tailoring company to afford. But let's do a hypothesis, right? Let's say, imagine that you get like other companies that allow tailors to maybe based on a subscription, you make use of 3D body scanners in some way, right? Whatever, any form. And bespoke tailors manage to scan the bodies of their clients and then use a program like CLO to get the best fit within the first fitting, right?
Yep.
What do you think in that case is going to become valuable to the client and to the customer? Because if 10 tailors, 9 out of 10 tailors get the perfect fit using a technology like this, then what is going to make the tailors or the fashion companies special? Is it going to be fabric hues, colors, designs? I don't know. What do you think?
I definitely think that this kind of development will put a pressure on all the bigger fashion houses, all the very big companies who has the very big share of the clothing made and sold. I think it's going to be them who's going to feel the pressure, because we have an increasing tendency to go on Instagram. We want to be unique. We want to find this little gem, this little tailor, this little someone who makes something we can't live without, that makes us special because it's a limited edition, I think more smaller companies will spring up. We will see more, a brighter variety of designs from more people. And maybe, I hope also that in the future, this technology, let's say I am in Denmark, but I have a subscription in Italy with someone who has a body scanner. And there's an Italian guy who likes my designs. He can go in, get his body scanned. I can use the program to create a pattern that fits the scanned body. If that's good, if we can get a correct scan turned into a 3D model, because now, we can scan objects with our phone, it will make it into a 3D model. What's the next step?
Yes.
But then it would open up the possibility for me to have fittings on a person in Italy, potentially. And it could open up the market for smaller designers to be more worldwide instead of very local. I think that is what's gonna happen. So we're gonna see a decrease in all the bigger companies. They're gonna lose money, and people are gonna go out and seek these unique, special, smaller designers or tailors who can bring something new to the table. Because also, we start to think about the sustainable aspect, or at least more people are thinking about the sustainable aspect, and we can't get that with fast fashion companies.
Do you think there's going to be an explosion of virtual catwalks? I'm following a denim designer. I can't remember her name. It's quite complex. But I just saw that she uploaded a video of a guy wearing a pair of her jeans virtually, trying them out. And then there's another girl in the video seeing him trying the pants, and she likes the trousers, and she goes and shoves him out, and then the pants pops on her instead. It's quite fun, the 3D pants. And I just seeing that, it's already there. So I think there's going to be an explosion. Yes, definitely. Now,
I don't know.
I don't know if you've heard. Have you heard? Yeah. Please continue.
Are you in the group? There's some Facebook groups with CLO3D and stuff like that. Are you in there seeing what people are making?
No, unfortunately, I have seen a lot of what people have been making, but I am not in that group. No.
Okay, because that's quite interesting. If I should, based on the group, there's still a long way to go. Because, as we just talked about, there's a lot of people trying the program, getting to know it, but the quality is not super good without funding anybody. There's some good stuff in there, some very talented people, but yeah, there's still some way to go.
Do you think that the quality is not really there because people lack the fundamental knowledge of how patterns are constructed and how things go together?
Yes. Because a lot of the problems in this group is because people don't know fitting. They don't know pattern making. They see something pulling there and they think there's too much fabric when there's actually too little, or the other way around.
Right.
So a lot of the problems in this group is because people don't know pattern making. It's like, why is the garment doing this? Oh, it's because there's too much at the sides. So yeah, it's not there yet because it's people who don't know how to make clothing in real life.
Well, one of the things I did find very good about CLO is that they also thought about things like, being able to pinch fabric or ease fabric into a seam or pin a piece. Those are some very good things, and I think I wonder if they're going to do a tailoring version where you can, and you can also, I don't know. I saw an iron, and you could iron things, but I don't know if you can stretch and compress fabric. I didn't manage to do that. Is that possible?
When you press in extra width over the shoulder blades on a woolen coat,
yes.
Basically what the iron tool icon in the program is doing, it is either pulling in, taking away, or adding volume to a flat piece of fabric. So basically that you can, like, you push in width in the real world. With the iron, you can actually add a little bit more volume in one place. But as far as I have found out so far, it's not working super good. Normally I'm not using the iron tool, but it's there. It's there.
Yes.
But it could
so
be
here's a question, and I don't know if it is. It definitely is. What do you think about this? The people who have created CLO3D, how much do you think they knew about pattern cutting, and how specialized were they in the fundamentals of pattern cutting versus them just being engineers that just tried to create a world that simulated fabrics and just did basic things?
Yes. I think they must have had someone. They must have had someone there telling them how this stuff works, because they have a tool for making a dart. You can put a dart in somewhere, easy. So they know how to shape 2D shapes that is not elastic. So they must have had. They must have hired people or got someone in to tell them how pattern making works. Because in the CLO3D program, I know that some of the names of the icons are changed, so people in the fashion industry better understand them. Where Marvelous Designer is more focused on people doing, maybe computer animation. So the same button has a different name, which is also quite interesting.
Right.
So they make the CLO3D to support the fashion market with words and terms that you use for making clothing in real life. So it is more of a tailor-made option for people working with fabric in real life, and of course garments and clothing.
Yeah.
So they must have had a cooperation with pattern makers and people who know how to sew textiles, because they have so many of these options that we use in the program. Yeah. And they're very close. It's very, very interesting. I'm still just getting surprised of how what the program can do and how the fabrics move in the virtual fabrics move in the program. I don't know. There is an option in the program. You should try it out. You can add wind. You can add directional wind to a piece of fabric.
Yes, I
have. And to see.
Yes, I have tried that.
And I'm still amazed because if you put in some heavy denim fabric, it behaves in one way, and if you take it to like silk chiffon or something like that, it's just incredible. It's really, really well done.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Well, I
ton of
wonder
fun.
what's going to happen within the next 5 years.
Oh, wow. It's going to be a brave new world for people studying fashion and pattern making, that's for sure.
Did you
But I
hear
hope,
about the announcement of metaverse?
is this the Facebook thing? I
Yeah,
haven't heard.
yes.
I've seen the name, and I heard that that the Facebook corporation behind Facebook changed their name, but I have no idea what the metaverse is. No, I haven't. I haven't gone into it.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think about virtual clothing? So if you were in a virtual world and you had your avatar
Yes.
instead of a profile picture, and
Yes.
what do you think the virtual clothing market is going to be like?
Oh my God. Um, this is like the dark side of the web, you know. It's kind of. I know. I think. As far as I know, I think it's Gucci. They are selling Gucci dresses in an online world where your character can buy a Gucci dress for an insane amount of money.
Right.
And, you know, making a virtual dress only costs time. And then you can just copy it an infinite amount of times, an infinite profit.
Yes.
Without any extra cost, you know, you make the garment, it takes 5 hours, and then those 5 hours you can duplicate infinitely and sell it. This
Yes.
scares me a bit, this prospect.
Well, it
But I
scares
think
me as
it's,
well, and it should scare you because what is going to happen with what type of a business model are we going to exactly have in the
yeah,
virtual world? Because I do
yeah.
know that it is definitely going to happen. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah, it is.
The,
Oh, God, yes.
right?
Yes, it's going to happen.
I'm trying to think how
Virtual,
closely
yeah.
connected CLO3D is.
Oh, I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. And the little video I mentioned with the denim designer where they swap pants and you can see how the pants are moving with how the body moves. And with all of the virtual reality, you know, we just actually have to put these goggles on and then a feeding tube, and we can lay down in a chair and we live our whole life in there, you know.
Yes.
And we can visit online shops with trying on clothing on. The potential is just out of this world. Very, very difficult to understand. But I think it's going to be there because, you know, these forums already exist. Take people who are using, is it called Second Life? This huge online community with just thousands of people running around with their avatars. You know, instead of going out Friday evening, they're meeting in an online club, at a virtual club, and they can dress their character. You know,
Yeah.
people have online relationships, and you would like your character to look nice. it's it's yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. But I think this is the way it's gonna go. More and more people are going online, and we are gonna explore the possibilities, and the possibilities are just endless. Imagine a dress you can make in a 3D universe where there's no gravity. Oh my God! It's gonna.
Yeah.
It's just gonna work in completely new levels, and I think this is also interesting because, like, I've seen what you have been making online, and you're an absolute master of working with your hands. When you put these skills
Well,
into
thank
that
you.
program, oh, you're welcome. When you put these skills and your knowledge of all of that, and all of your designs and cool things, when you have the program working as easily as you cut a pattern with your scissors, then you would be able to distinguish that someone who knows what they're doing, like you, made this 3D clothing, of course. And and that's going to set people like you, and also in some degree people like me who knows how to use these things, going to set us apart. So the handcraft you can make in real life is going to follow you into the 3D world.
Yeah. True. That's very true. And I guess it's, how would you say, it's eventually to do with who has the best technical abilities, not only with the program, but also with the real life thing.
And I really
another
hope
question,
that,
just...
Yep.
Sorry, continue. Please continue.
Like, well, we talked about the how this will, work with the future design students and stuff like that. I really hope that they're never going to take away the 2D pattern making, that you work with in real life and you draw the lines and you understand the lines, because without that skill, it's never going to be good in the 3D world.
Yes, well, I have to say, when I used CLO for about 2 weeks, day in, day out, and I went back to paper cutting, I have to be very honest, man. I don't say I didn't like it, but it was a bit shocking because I thought, I was used to five clicks and then make 20 severe changes. And now I had to, for one change, spend half an hour to just make one change in one area. It was quite shocking, I have to say.
It is.
But moving on to...
shocking.
It is, yes. Moving on to a different subject, what I'd like to ask you is, what have you learned working with different mills and different fabric suppliers, and just generally as a fabric merchant? What are the things that you have encountered in the industry? What are the challenges that a fabric merchant usually is facing, and how is your interaction been in general?
Some of the biggest problems is people buying, not understanding good quality. And good quality is a lot of things, but when someone thinks they have went into some shop and they bought something, let's say 15 euros, and it has all of these certifications and all of that, they think that's good. They are almost like the glasses are falling off when I tell them the cost of 1 meter of cotton fabric from Alumo. The misconception, and this is a part of the kind of brainwashing that I think the fashion industry is doing, because they're trying to make it look way better than it is. Like, so getting the message across, why is this better? That is, I think, still is the hardest thing, even for a lot of the made-to-measure businesses that's starting up. It's easy to start up a made-to-measure business. You just call some company, you pay some money, and you get sizes 46 to 52, and then you're ready to go. They'll hand you one of these, and it says House Fabrics, and then you're ready to go. Even those people working with that don't understand why this is more expensive than their Italian house fabrics. And that is for me a bit shocking. I actually have some companies not even interested in seeing a sample, not even touching it. Wow. They're just content with the house fabrics. And it's actually interesting. I just got a call today about this. After Brexit, to import fabrics from the UK, if you don't have to pay import tax or duties or anything like that, the product has to be UK origin, made in the UK. And there's a lot of companies in the UK who is selling things. It's from the UK. You think it is, but they have maybe imported it. Let's say from somewhere outside the UK. I don't know where. China. If the UK company sells something they imported to China, we have to pay import taxes and all kinds of stuff because it's not UK origin. And now this, it's not just started, but it's not very old. It's a made-to-measure company in Denmark. He called me because he's having problems with all the duties. And that is because he's having trouble. It's because the product is not UK origin. So it's starting to create some troubles. And hopefully many of these made-to-measure businesses will open their eyes and see what is, dive in. Don't just trust that it's Italian fabrics or something like that. You have to know more. Because no one has any idea where this fabric came from. So that is a big problem. That it's kind of a lying, because what is house fabrics? Where is it from? If you ask any questions, we don't know.
What role do you think that fabric companies can play in showing people or familiarizing people with what real quality is?
You have to see with your hands. You have to take the step and try it, and see how the garment works and how it continues to be a beautiful piece of clothing when it's made from the right kind of fabric, how it ages well, and how that other cheap thing you got looks like complete compared to it. So what I have experienced is that as the made-to-measure businesses grow, they get more into this. And they want to expand and try and make something nicer because I think they also themselves develop another understanding of what they're doing because, many of them, they just start a made-to-measure business and they sell you a tailor-made suit for 250 euros. And that is also a lie. It's a scam. It doesn't exist. It's not tailor-made. And that is also a part of the problem, and that this misuse of the word, because then people just think that it's tailor-made. Then why does your cost 1,000 euros and this one, which is tailor-made, costs 200? So it's also a bit about honesty in the trade. But yeah, maybe honesty doesn't always sell. As my former boss said, that I'm never going to be a good salesman because I'm too honest.
Well,
oh God!
Here's a question that. So one of the things I've noticed is that once you start working with fabrics, you see the fabric from a very different perspective than someone who just for 5 minutes looks at it, feels it, maybe reads the technical specification. And obviously when you have a shop, whether it's a tailoring shop, a fabric shop whatsoever, and you have a front of house, let's say a salesman, who hasn't worked with the fabrics, they are never going to have the perspective that the tailor has. But at the same time, I can also understand that it's impossible for everyone who sells fabric to actually work and make things with the fabric to be able to say, I mean, even I don't work with all the fabrics that I show clients. But having worked with a lot of fabrics, I can at least generalize across and say, oh, this looks like that fabric. This is probably going to make up well because of these following reasons. What do you think that fabric companies can do to really bring clients and customers closer to the knowledge about quality so that they can distinguish between the different qualities and perhaps sometimes rip-offs themselves a lot easier?
I think a lot of fabric companies has to be a little bit more open also about their production. As I know, I can only talk from Dugdale perspectives, but I can go in and ask, where's the wool from this coming from? And they know it. They can show me in the database. They can tell me where it's from. So if the client, for some reason, is very interested to know, like, where is it from, we can find it. It's very open. And I think more fabric merchants and mills has to be very open about where they're getting their things from, because people want to know in the future. I think even now in Scandinavia, it's very big. We want to follow the process. And the all of the before everything went out, I talked about the medias. We can see Instagram, we can see blog posts, we can follow a lot of people, and more people who knows stuff, like not just people who, because there's a difference between just liking nice clothing and then really caring about it. And there's a lot of people who talks about clothing online. There's not a lot of people who works with it more deeply, wants to know more. So more people are going to get involved, I think. That's what I'm seeing anyway. Sharing knowledge like you are doing. You are one of them. Spreading the word, trying to tell people about all of these things. And that is going to carry the way forward, I think. That the younger generation of a very old and very traditional trade might see it in a different light, might be using some different channels to get the message out, experimenting more maybe. So people like yourself as a part of the solution, sharing knowledge. I think that is very important. And that is very easy to understand and not hidden behind a lot of names and stuff, like easy to explain, easy to understand. Also, I think programs like we just talked about, Marvelous Designer and CLO3D, will help people, because it can be very difficult for a customer coming into a shop, ordering a suit, and then imagining this as a whole suit. But with the 3D program, you can make a standardized suit in the design you have, and then you can show it in all kinds of fabric. You can show it in this, you can show it in that, and the customer gets a feel for how it's going to look. And I think that's going to help them to try out more things because it's more safe. You can see how it's going to look. So I think these programs can also be a part of that if we're going to use them. And the mills and all the people working with textiles and stuff also can see the profits and benefits of programs and technology like this.
I see. Okay, are you ready for a speed round?
What is a speed round?
I have a few words, and I'll give them to you, and you tell me the first thing that pops up your mind.
Oh my God. Yes, let's try it.
Okay, let's start with the easiest. CLO3D.
Future.
Okay. Fashion.
I don't even know the first word. I'm just bad.
Okay, design.
Design. Positive. That's the first word, positive. Good design.
Okay.
We like good design.
All right. A virtual world.
First word comes to my mind is interesting. Possibilities.
Interesting. Okay. Virtual clothing.
Virtual clothing, also extremely interesting. Part of CLO3D, it's a future. I think it's in an aspect of fashion we don't know yet.
Okay. The biggest problem in the fabric industry.
Deception. We're lying to the end customer.
Deception.
Yes.
Can you give an example of that?
Yes, a good example. I tried it myself. When companies cover up original logos with their own, like in the fabric shop I used to work in, sometimes when we got some fabrics in and we didn't want people to know, and we covered it up, and I hated all about it. I think it's so bad to put your own logo there. That for me is deception. And yeah, I'm just too honest. I wouldn't put my logo over to cover anything. That's just so far from what I want. And I know that some people in the trade, they have this. Like I have an example. There's a tailor in Denmark who used to buy Dugdale. And before I took it over, it was more of a so he spoke to Dugdale and he ordered from Dugdale and they sent to him, and then someone else received commission. He didn't know about that, but he thought he was shopping with Dugdale, and he was shopping with Dugdale, but he didn't know there was someone getting commission. Now with the new setup with me, people, they talk to me, they know that I'm working with Dugdale, I'm selling it. And because that he suddenly got another face on, he thought that I had paid money to Dugdale to get this. And he thought that he said to me, I won't buy Dugdale from you because you sell it in your own name. And that is not true, because my company has a name and my company is selling Dugdale. I'm not covering up Dugdale. I would never do that. I want people to go and visit Dugdale's website and see all about it. But he was afraid, that was some kind of reaction. He was afraid that he was getting cheated. And that didn't feel good for me, because that is not what I want. Yeah, I can understand why he might feel that way, because he might have, experienced something different when someone's selling companies in another name, or there's some deception going on for sure.
I see. Okay. Well, that makes sense. The most important thing about pattern cutting?
Precision.
Precision, okay. Made to measure?
Made to measure. The first word. It's. I think it's the product can be good if the people working with it is taking care. Then you can have a nice product. So it's good. Good.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Last but not least, tailoring in Denmark.
Tailoring in Denmark. On the rise, getting back. It's a very small community in Denmark. I think for more classical menswear, I think we have about 3 people doing like classic men's tailoring. There's more people working with women's tailoring, of course, but what I feel is I see more and more in Denmark. Each year we have this show where different craftsmen's guilds show off what they can do. It can leather, it can be hat making, also tailoring is there. And I see more names coming in, which is super nice. It just goes to show that it's going in the direction that I hope. So tailoring in Denmark is on the rise. Definitely.
I see. Okay. Rasmus, thank you very much for making the time. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've learned a lot. We had some good brainstorm sessions going on there. And I look forward to follow your work and to talk perhaps later in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what you can make in CLO3D.
Okay, well, I'll show you. I'll show you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And that was Rasmus. I hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you'd like to see more from his work or visit his website, you can follow the links to his Instagram page and his website in the description of this video. If you have been watching the videos so far and you find them interesting or you're interested in tailoring, please subscribe. And if you have any thoughts, comments, or ideas that you want to share, please let me know. And I sure hope to see you again in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.